Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of the Mandatory Live Post Fight Show. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, follow us on our social media channels. We're at the Mandatory TKO. Lots to get into. We just saw earlier on the co-main, we saw Arnold Barboza Jr. and Jose Ramirez. We are going to get into all of that. And before we do, remember we're also on the audio side. So if you got a couple of minutes, leave a rate and review. Give us a 5-star because that helps the channel grow. Why wouldn't you? And he did mention Teofimo Lopez when he was on our show early on when we first started this show. He mentioned Teofimo Lopez. There was some back and forth between Teo's dad, Arnold's dad. That was going on. That fight never ended up happening. And now Arnold Barboza is in a situation where we're taking a look at the 140-pound division, and hopefully he gets that title shot. It should be Teofimo Lopez. I think that's the most interesting fight that could happen. But Bryan, if Teo doesn't want to sign that contract to fight Arnold Barboza Jr., because let's be serious, if Arnold Barboza Jr. fights like that and Teofimo Lopez doesn't fight like Teofimo Lopez, Arnold could possibly win that fight.
Remember when Teofimo Lopez fought Sandor Martin and a lot of people thought he lost that fight? And he basically won. I had him winning by 8 points, and that was with the knockdown that he suffered, but I could have seen it the other way. Like, it wouldn't have been crazy to me if he lost that fight. Teofimo Lopez, since moving to 140, Tony Ayo, I'm gonna get to that comment in a second because that's a really good one. We're gonna put that up. And drop comments because we're talking about 140 now. Give us your thoughts on that weight class and how Arnold Barboza potentially fits. Now, he fought Pedro Campa, this being Teofimo Lopez. So, great showing against somebody he should have beaten. There's your debut. Sandor Martin, not a great performance. Josh Taylor, excellent performance. That's honestly maybe, like, other than the Lomachenko fight, and some would say even including that one, maybe his best performance. But with the benefit of hindsight, it's like, all right, is Josh Taylor actually kind of like, was the decline already happening? He had over a year-long
I'm not
layoff
going to
before
lie to
that.
you. I
Yeah.
don't want to take anything away from Teo because, he did work against Josh Taylor, but there's clearly a decline.
Josh Taylor's is also not your favorite fighter.
No, but I gave him props. Like when he fought Jose Ramirez, dropped Jose Ramirez. Like you got to understand, I am a massive Jose Ramirez fan. And I also got love for Arnold Barboza Jr. He's one of my favorite fighters as well. Like people don't like him. I like the way that he fights. And I think he's underrated in this division. But this was a fight that was really sad for me. And I was telling Bryan on WhatsApp, I was like, yo, I'm hella happy for Arnold, but I'm like sad because Jose Ramirez lost. Like I didn't know how to feel after this fight. But listen, he's fairly he destroyed Jose Ramirez, but that was a fight where I didn't even think Jose Ramirez looked like himself in that Josh Taylor fight. And there was a long layoff. Let's also keep in mind that Jose Ramirez has not been very active. And I
Yeah.
think that was also an issue in this fight, Bryan.
Going back to it, because Jose Ramirez was like, I mean, look, he almost was undisputed. He was almost undisputed at this weight class. This is why we keep talking about this weight class being so goddamn chaotic. Like Arnold Barboza gets this win. And I think that the fight with Teofimo Lopez is interesting, just to wrap up the Teofimo Lopez point, but he's had 5 fights in this weight class. So he's only impressed in 2 of them. Josh Taylor, Pedro Campa. Sandor Martini could have lost. Jermaine Ortiz, I think a lot of people, I don't know if people thought he could have lost that fight necessarily, but a lot of people were just
I don't
underwhelmed.
think that fight was his fault either. Like Jermaine Ortiz did what Jermaine Ortiz's game plan was. That
But
wasn't his fault.
but cut off the ring better. Like, it seems to be a problem with Teofimo Lopez. And then Steve Claggett, like, that one probably shouldn't have gone 12. Steve Claggett is very
If you
tough.
talk to my fellow Canadians, they will tell you that Steve Claggett is a very, very tricky fighter, and they weren't surprised that it went that way. Personally, I was.
Mhm.
But, they weren't surprised. Like talking to a lot of Canadians about Steve Claggett fighting Teofimo Lopez, that was a fight where a lot of them who've seen a lot of Steve Claggett thought that's the way it would go. Like, I think the biggest question here, Bryan, is because I was at that Pedro Campa fight in Vegas a
That's
couple of
right.
years ago.
Yeah. I was at the
Has
Josh Taylor one.
has Teofimo Lopez has his power translated to 140? Because we haven't seen it. He had a chance to knockout or TKO Josh Taylor, it wasn't done. Keep in mind that that hasn't happened to Josh Taylor ever in his career. But I mean, this is not a post-fight show about Teofimo Lopez, but has his power translated? Like, I don't know if it has. I think that's a serious question that we have to start asking.
He has one stoppage win at 140. And the one stoppage, this isn't counting. I mean, even if you did want to count a fight at 140 or a couple fights at 140 early on, like you can, but that's not relevant to this. Since becoming a 140 fighter, he has one stoppage, and that was against Pedro Campa. I don't think he even knocked him down until the seventh round. And he didn't drop Sandor Martin. He got dropped. He didn't drop Josh Taylor. He almost did. And obviously did not against Steve Claggett and Jermaine Ortiz. And I think he could have. The thing with the Steve Claggett fight is like, for me, it's not going to the cars as much as is. I feel like he could have done a good deal more than he did and kind of just coasted. And that was the thing that was disappointing, right? So to bring this back to Arnold Barboza, because whether or not the power translates is important, because Arnold Barboza is like, it's not somebody you're just going to put away. Granted, he's not like a big power puncher, but there's some sting on those jabs and those straights, and he has the movement. Like
Yo, and
he's,
he took some power shots from Jose Ramirez. Like, Jose Ramirez got power
yeah.
and he took it well. Like, Arnold's showing that he's got a little bit of a chin.
The reason Teofimo probably doesn't want to take this fight is because, like, is it a money fight for him? No, not necessarily. It's a mandatory title defense against a guy who's not a huge name, who doesn't have finishing ability, and who's not gonna like. They're gonna probably do like a theater together, you know. But at the same time, Arnold Barboza is also a dangerous opponent because Arnold Barboza could do what Jermaine Ortiz did with more offense. He can do what Sandor Martin did with more offense. You know, he has a better jab. You could argue than both of those guys. Like, you could convincingly argue that. He's going to use the ring. He's going to use movement. Like, there's a real world where like those type of elements that Teofimo Lopez struggles with, like that could be a stylistic nightmare for him if he fights Arnold Barboza. He should win this fight. Like Teofimo Lopez, if they were to fight, Teofimo Lopez is talented. He should beat anybody at 140, basically. But
Yeah.
Arnold Barboza could definitely win that fight because Teofimo Lopez struggles with movement and struggles with cutting off the ring, and his power hasn't translated to 140 in the same way.
And it's like, what Teofimo Lopez are we going to get? Because I do believe he is the best at 140. Let me just say that right away. But I do think Arnold Barboza causes him some problems in anybody in the 140-pound division. And I also think when we take a look at the top five, like Arnold is there in conversation. Like people are not going to give him his props because for some reason they just don't like his style. They haven't believed in him since his top rank run, but he's proven himself. He's 31-0. The guy needs a title shot. He just took care of Jose Ramirez, a former champion who was almost undisputed. He needs a title shot. But I do think that the one fight that Teofimo Lopez is looking at is him and Devin Haney because that makes him the most money. And I think Teofimo Lopez wants those money fights instead.
Because he also knows that Devin Haney is now chinny. Also, that's the other piece of it. Like the Devin Haney fight, I think he might perceive it as even easier than the Arnold Barboza one now post Ryan Garcia, which I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. But
That's disrespecting Devin Haney. I'm not gonna lie, because I
yeah,
still think Devin Haney can beat anybody in this division,
I
man.
think that's how Teofimo would see it, though. Like, I think people are super down on Devin Haney, and for me, it's like I need to see what he looks like post Ryan Garcia. Like, if he fights in his next fight, Sandor Martin, which has been rumored in the past, I don't know if it's going to happen now, but if he fights Sandor Martin and Sandor Martin like rocks him with a straight left in the second round, a straight left that doesn't even look that crazy, or a hook or something along those lines, then that would make me think of what happened.
Another fight that I would be hella down for if the
Uh-huh.
rematch with Jose Valenzuela and Isaac Cruz doesn't happen is give Arnold Barboza and Jose Valenzuela a shot to fight each other because they could do that again in Cali.
Yeah, they'd probably do
They
that in
could do
Saudi
that.
Arabia instead.
Oh my god, if they do it in Saudi, I'm gonna be mad. Like, stop taking away these fights from the West Coast. But I think that's a title fight for Arnold Barboza. And let's be serious, like Jack Catterall deserves a title shot too.
Let's go to Toniello, who throws a curveball and says, "Give Barbosa Devin Haney. Devin Haney's still the champion in recess, technically."
The only issue with that is, Brian, I don't know if that makes any money. I don't know if, like, I think Teofimo Lopez and Barboza can make money And I even think they could they, you know, I know Teo's a Florida guy, Miami guy, Brooklyn guy, whatever he wants to claim. But
Sure.
I think Teo could do that fight in Vegas or even on the West Coast and it be successful.
Sure.
I think so. I think it could be successful. And I think they can make some money out of it because there was some back and forth between the camps. Like a couple of years ago when Arnold was on our show, there was talk about that. When Teo was, you know, at Top Rank, Arnold was at Top Rank. Like that was a fight that was kind of brewing and it didn't happen. And there was back and forth. They could sell it. But Barboza and Devin Haney, like two really nice fellas. Like they're not gonna like they're just like the nicest guys of all time. Like Devin's a nice kid. He acts like that for the cameras, but you can tell that he's a nice kid,
You
man.
say this all the time. It's so funny.
He looks like a sweet boy. You know that listens to his dad, that loves his grandma. Like I'm being honest, like he just seems like a very nice kid, and that's not like me hating on him. He's a nice dude, and you can tell.
I know, but
You know what I
like,
mean?
no, like he, I can't.
It's like he acts it up for the cameras, and I don't buy it. Like I never buy it from Devin because you can tell he has like a genuine soul. But like, and Arnold Barbosa is like the nicest guy too. Like
Awesome.
that fight does not make any money. Yeah, it makes money in Saudi.
By the way, they're both West Coast guys. Like you could put that in the Bay.
Oh yeah,
You could do that. You could
I
put
would
that in
go
the
to
Bay.
that fight if it was in the Bay.
Sure.
There's no way I could miss that fight
Yeah.
if it's in the Bay.
140, and we're gonna revisit the chaos again. We literally just did this last week because Subriel Matias is back on the map. And we talked about it recently because Jack Catterall beat Regis Prograis. Like, so we're not going to go through the whole thing now. By the way, Arnold Barboza now ranked higher than Regis Prograis.
Makes sense though. Like
No, that's a turn of events because remember when we were talking to both of them, like Regis didn't seem too interested in the Arnold Barboza fight when Arnold Barboza wanted that fight the most, and things flip over just a year and a half. So,
and that was before his fight in New Orleans with Danielito Zorrilla.
yeah,
Like, and I was like, yo, I think Regis is like the guy, and like things have changed drastically.
yeah.
But this division it's up in the air, man. Like no one's that clear cut. I think we both agree it's Teo, but anything can happen in this division.
All it took was two fights because Regis had the fight against Danielito, and then he had the fight against Devin Haney, where he just looked bad. We have Sandor Martin ranked number 1 by the WBC, by the way, and I wonder what's going to happen there because Alberto Puello is the champion and Devin Haney is the champion in recess, and I have no idea what's going to happen with that. WBA is Valenzuela. Is he going to get Isaac Cruz? Liam Paro, the IBF, he's going to defend against Richardson Hitchens in a few weeks. We want to do that. That'll probably be our next post-fight live.
Yes.
We're going to have a live show this week, but our next post-fight live will probably likely be on December 7th because it's not just that card, but there's like a lot of shit going on that day. Robesi Ramirez is fighting Rafael Espinoza for the second time, as is Navarrete, Emmanuel Navarrete, and Oscar Valdez. And Teofimo Lopez, we mentioned, is WBO. And then you have like Arnold Barbosa's number 1 here, and Jack Catterall is actually waiting around for a title shot now. Like it feels like Jack Catterall might get the Liam Paro Richardson Hitchens winner.
I hope so. He deserves it.
Yeah.
And that's me, like not a Jack Catterall fan. If you watch the show, he deserves a title shot. And I think him and Liam Paro would be a war. I would take Liam Paro.
Maybe. I don't know if it'll be a war. I think it'll be a fun boxing match.
I think they'll make it interesting.
I'm gonna keep saying this though. Richardson Hitchens could win that fight against Liam Paro. Like I think people might be sleeping on him a little bit.
But I think if he does, people are gonna be like, "Yo, that was the most boring fight of all time." Like people are gonna hate on that. I do want to ask you a question, Bryan.
Yes.
Is Alberto Puello the most underrated champion and fighter in the 140-pound division?
I think he's the only champion in this division that's underrated, period. Maybe Liam Paro might be a little bit, but like let's see him against Hitchens first. If he dominates the Richardson Hitchens fight, then I'll be like, all right, Liam Paro's got to be like top something in this division. Give him not Devin Haney, but give him Teofimo Lopez in the unification, or Devin Haney, whatever. Like give him something like that.
You know what's really interesting about that? And maybe I'm putting too much weight on this, but I think I have a reason to. I still think this year, and I don't know if this is a hot take, but this is my take. Liam Paro going into Puerto Rico and beating Subriel Matias is still one of the best wins this year in boxing.
It is.
He did it in Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
and he did it convincingly.
Yeah.
And Subriel Matias was that guy that everyone's like, yo, the boogeyman, no one wanted to fight him. You
Matchroom
saw
cut
him.
him.
Yeah.
Matchroom cut him after that.
And listen, he came back recently, had a great finish. So we're not talking about Subriel, but he's there. And I still think it was one of the best wins. And that's why I would take Liam Paro over a lot of guys. I think he beats Hitchens. I think Hitchens has a chance. But I also think he beats Jack Catterall because I put so much weight on that win, Bryan.
And someone mentioned Landolfo Delgado last week. Let's mention him again because he's in this mix too. Look, Arnold Barboza was ranked number 4 by the IBF prior to this fight. Number 1 is Richardson Hitchens, who's getting the title shot. So he and Liam Paro, one of them is going to drop down a few spots after the fight, assuming it's not a draw, which could very well happen, to be honest. They don't have a number 2 ranked right now. It's just not rated. So there's your potential eliminator right there. Like Jack Catterall, Arnold Barboza could both slide up because Jack Catterall is 3, Arnold Barboza is 4, Hitchens is 1. There's not a 2. The IBF, if they want to, you could just have the winner between Liam Paro. Their mandatory could be Jack Catterall or Arnold Barboza. You could have Catterall, Arnold Barboza fight each other in an eliminator, and there's your number 1 contender. Like if neither of them are going to get a title shot next.
That's the thing. And this is my, I had my mic on mute again. I'm so sorry. We've been doing too many post fight shows, but I will say that's the only thing that will bother me is if we have to wait a year for Arnold Barboza to get that title shot. Like
Catterall
I don't want Catterall to wait. I don't want Barboza to wait. So the only way I'll be cool with Arnold Barboza and Jack Catterall fighting, even though I both believe they should get title shots next, is if the wait is too long.
Yeah.
Like if it's more than 6 months, let them fight, and whoever wins gets the winner of Liam Paro and Hitchens. Let's just say that.
The right move, with air quotes, it would be Paro, Hitchens winner, Catterall is the number 1 contender, Barboza gets Teofimo Lopez. Because I don't know what Teofimo Lopez is going to, like, what else is he going to do? Other than Devin Haney, but it doesn't. I don't know if I'm Devin Haney. That's not my first fight back.
For me, it's I don't think Devin Haney wants to do that, but they'll both make bread off of it, and I think Devin has a really good chance to beat Teo still. I know a lot of people are down on him, but I think he can beat anybody in this division still. We'll see how he is after that Ryan Garcia fight, obviously, because it is suspect that he is chinny now, and we don't know how he's going to look after that damage that he took. I will say this, though. If Arnold Barboza and Teofimo Lopez can't come to terms, give him Jose Valenzuela, because I'd rather see that than a rematch with him and Pitbull Cruz. That's just my opinion. I think that's a big fight. I think you can do it on the West Coast, and they're both Mexican Americans. Like, you cannot go wrong with that fight, in my opinion. And I think it would be pretty entertaining when you think stylistically. Bryan, should we get to some comments before we go on to Jose Ramirez? Because I still think we need to talk about him really quickly.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Yes.